The days after the crash, how did that go down with you? How did you know? I mean, were you getting a lot of information after it happened?
No, no, we weren't. And you know, we were dealing with giving Anita a nice memorial. And, you know, I did the funeral program and planning things like that, and dealing with her friends and other people and being there for them was more important to us. And of course our work, you know, we both had work. So we were fitting things into our lives and just doing the absolute necessary at the time and not worrying too much about what was going on at the crash site.
So you talked about suing Boeing.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Oh, they were so ugly. So ugly. That was awful. And you know, that's what gives attorneys a bad name. My husband actually cried during the deposition because they were so ugly. They were trying to tell us, oh, Anita smoked, she wouldn't have lived very long anyway. Why did she have so many boyfriends? Well, she had a lot of boyfriends, but they were one at a time, you know. But you know, they were trying to paint a bad picture of her, that she wouldn't have lived long, that we didn't deserve a lot of money, and you know, things like this. And were you really devastated? And why do you think that the crash caused her suffering? And my husband couldn't deal with it. He couldn't even look at the pictures of the crash. And I said, I'll tell you exactly why. She was in this jump seat, and things were falling on her, and her neck was severed, and and I'm telling him, point, point, point. Here's exactly what happened. And my husband has tears rolling down his face. But that's what they were asking, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it.
It's important to keep that image of her going.
So my husband died just before we got the settlement. I was so angry because he could have done a memorial. He wanted to do something at work. He worked with abused and neglected children. And he wanted to do something in her honor, like, you know, a room where the abused and neglected children could actually feel a safe haven or something. But he died before we got the settlement. They drug it out so long. 98, I think.
98.
From 91 to 98.
In the meantime, though, the Pittsburgh crash had already happened.
Yeah,
that
the
was
Pittsburgh
in 1994.
crash. Yes.
And so they were still dragging their feet. When did it start? When did the lawsuit start with Boeing?
I think we had to file within a year. So we filed just before the first year was up. And they drug it out until 98.
That's a shame.
Oh, and then the attorneys, we had to sign the forms at the end, you know. And Boeing sent the contract saying that we would hold them harmless for Anita's death and Art's death as part of the settlement. And I'm saying, you know, this has nothing to do with Art's death, and I'm not going to sign this. And they were saying, what does it matter? Are you going to sue him over Art's death? Well, I know it was related, but I'm not going to sue him. But they don't get it for free. So I wouldn't sign it. And our attorney came back and said, good for you. I missed that, and they don't get that. So they had to redo the contract before I would sign it.
What do you think there was a relation? Let me ask you this. If the Pittsburgh crash never happened, do you think that they would have settled your lawsuit?
Yeah, because we wouldn't have given up. Yeah. They would have settled our lawsuit maybe for even less than we got, but they might not have fixed the plane. And that's what we wanted. And once the Pittsburgh crash happened, they knew they couldn't ignore it anymore, although they tried. They really did try.
It's interesting that how people are view different things about the crash. I had another victim's family member tell me that she considers that they were killed. Would you use that stronger word?
Oh, yeah. I went to Mass that Easter after she died, and I was just crying my heart out, sobbing, and during prayers for the faithful, I asked for everybody to pray for anybody who died in a violent manner. And everybody did. And this black man standing in front of me reached over and gave me a hug. He'd had somebody die in gang violence, but he could relate to me and I could relate to him, that it was violent, young, snuffed out immediately, and such a tragic loss of the potential of beautiful young people.